Hey coach, hope you're enjoying the video. Make sure you subscribe and like. We love those. Also go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. If you want to become a better coach in less than $1 a day, you can do that. My mentor, my personal email address, I will help you become a better basketball coach. Go over and check it out. Let's head back to the video.
All right, welcome to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. Coach and I are both going to pre-apologize for our voices because
it's that time of year.
It's that time of year. I got some hot coffee or hot tea, and I'm trying to make it work. But before we jump in, Coach, why don't you talk about I know you had a big bundle or your newsletter and stuff. Why don't you talk about that real quick before we jump in?
Oh, I mean, just my newsletter. I hit a milestone, I think, over the holidays. Over 10,000 people subscribe now. Great teams, better leaders. It's a great newsletter for you to just read and learn about leadership, coaching, and a whole lot more. And so I got all sorts of resources. Obviously, my Team Leader OS, we've talked about that a lot. Different books I've written and all that. So
give them the URL. Give them the URL so they have it.
Well, I think the easiest, if you just go to gb1leadership.com,
okay,
it'll take you right to a screen. You can subscribe to the newsletter and just encourage you to check that out.
And how often does the newsletter come out?
Comes out every Thursday. It's about a 4-minute read. It's basically one new thought on leadership, culture, teams from me. It's 2 quotes from coaches and so forth, and then 3 really good posts on X that I think are relevant for coaches. So gives you a little bit. I also throw some good links. Our links to I'm putting one of our podcasts links in each one of those newsletters too. So just a lot of resources for a coach to go through. It's a 4 or 5 minute read every Thursday morning at 7 a.m.
That's perfect. That's actually the perfect length, to be honest.
Yep.
With you. Anything longer, I found that out by writing a newsletter. Anything longer, people don't listen to. All right, so what's today's topic? I think we're on episode 25 too. This is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I know it is.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Today I wanted to talk about really it's a great Kara Lawson video, the women's coach at Duke, and a lot of people have probably seen it. If you haven't, just look it up, Google it. It's how you handle hard. And one phrase that I use online and I've written about is eliminate easy and handle hard. And I think both of us have had some adversity this season with our teams. But when I say eliminate easy, really what I'm thinking about is nothing worthwhile, comes easy. Like everything, that has meaning has to have hard work attributed to it. And so eliminate the easy out of your vocabulary and not think that there's an easy way out of anything, because ultimately what it comes down to is how you handle the hard stuff, because hard stuff will happen. And I think Kara Lawson in this video, what I love about it is, she said, life never gets easier. I think people all too often look for the easier way out. They think if I get a better job, if I get on a better team, if I do this or that, it's just going to get easier. It never gets easier. It gets harder. Life gets harder.
Yes. Yeah.
But what we learn how to do is handle hard better. And we've had some adversity this year. I know you have. How has your team handled?
And what I've talked about is control the controllables.
100%.
It's like that was one of the big things. We've had a lot of injuries, a lot of illnesses and stuff. And I was telling Coach before we came on that I haven't played my starting 5 more than 12 minutes all year in 20 games. And
yeah.
So you can handle it. And what I love about my group is there's been zero blaming, zero excuses, zero. It's like, and I said, and my dad is kind of sick and he's in hospice and we talk about that I share stuff with my teams, and I said, I've had to miss a game this year to go see him because he fell. And I said, we can only control like you can control what's in front of you. And I can't control that, so-and-so broke their arm, but we can control about how we're going to handle it, how we're going to handle the hard times. And I said, and you probably, it sounds like you've been in some of my team meetings about life not getting easier. It doesn't get easier. It gets more complicated, but I think as we get older, we learn how to handle the complication. Like we learn how to handle, like I can handle this team. This would have been a really hard team for me to handle in my 20s.
Yeah.
But in my 50s, I got a little bit more perspective on life, on things, on kids, on interactions, on community, and team, that I think you can just handle it easier. And
Well,
part of that is getting rid of, eliminating I don't worry about the excess noise. I worry about the hard things that are going on. How are we going to handle that? And like some of the injury kids, it's like I've had talks with their parents and them. It's like, okay, I want to help them, because one of them was really stuck. I use the analogy of like a car in mud. He was just
yep.
stuck and he couldn't get unstuck. And I called the dad and I said, I'm just really worried about him. Like, we got to get him unstuck. Like, I don't know how to get him unstuck, but we got to come up with a plan to get him unstuck, because he's like spiraling. And it was great. He's great now. I mean, we were able to come up with some plans and some things to help him get unstuck. I think that's the hard thing as coaches, but that's, it's hard. It's hard when they're 15 and they hit an obstacle. It's hard for a 25-year-old.
It is, and I think this is really the value of team sports, and why they're so important for kids, and why coaches are so important, because I mean, this is life, and this is stuff that really matters to kids, and they go through a tough injury. I had the same thing with our 4-year starting point guard this year, who had a bad ankle sprain, and then it lingered into his hamstring, and he did everything you're supposed to do to prep for the year, and finally he's back, to being himself. But you're right, getting them over that mental hurdle and that challenge is really what coaching is all about. And
Yeah.
navigating the hard stuff, the adversity, teaching them how to be resilient, how to overcome that. It's really a critical part of coaching, because how often in our years does a season ever go perfectly as planned? It never does, right? You hope that you have minimal distractions and stuff, but the bottom line is stuff's going to happen. We're teaching kids how to navigate it. We're doing it within the context of team. And I think good coaches help kids navigate that.
And I think part of the issue too is like, even with your player, it's one thing leads to another. And that's what they don't like. I had a kid with a foot problem, and now his back is like, I said, all things are related.
Totally.
And they're teenagers. They compartmentalize. They the world is against me. I mean, it's just, they're hard. They're learning to navigate the stormy weather, and we got to be their captains. No pun intended, but in some respects,
it's so true. And so I think as a coach, having these conversations with kids, are so important. And show this video. I mean, if you haven't watched this video with your kids, you really should. It's an excellent video. Handle Hard Better, Kara Lawson. But to me, this is really what coaching is all about. We can talk the X's and O's and all that. I always say that your talent and ability sets the floor for a ceiling, or floor for a team. The ceiling is the culture, the leadership, the ability to handle adversity, the soft skills, the resilient, like all this stuff we're talking about. That's what your ceiling is on your team each year. And so just keep that in mind.
And sometimes it's like, I have a relatively young team, so sometimes that you have to lean into that more. I've had senior teams where it's like I'm literally a passenger in the car, like
step back and let them go.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm playing, probably out of my top 9, I'm probably playing 6 sophomores. It's like in a league that tends to be dominated by seniors. So like you said, I think a lot of that, handle the hard is hard for them. I mean, some of them were playing freshmen, some of them were playing JV last year. It's like, they don't know. Like, it's our job to help them through that. Because it's just so different. Hey, it's hard to explain the jump between playing sophomore JV basketball, playing varsity basketball. It's the best. What I tell the kids, it's the best players in your school tend to be on the varsity.
Yeah.
And, it's a talented and gifted program for basketball players. So it's a huge jump from playing freshman basketball to varsity basketball, just like it's a huge jump from playing high
Totally.
school basketball to college basketball. Because now all of a sudden, everyone on the college team was the best player on their team. Like those jumps are hard, I think, from an adversity standpoint.
And it really comes down to kids' ability to handle the jump, handle the hard, handle the speed, handle the mental side of the game. This is such a mental game. And your ability to handle that is definitely a mental side of it.
And you know what? We were just talking about this. I'm a stats teacher. Thousands of decisions made from each. Like, think about every time you run your offense. Like, how many people make decisions on one possession? Like, so I said, you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. You know, it's that growth mindset. You're gonna, but it's like we want to minimize them. We want to make them these. And we went through it. I said, there's tens of thousands of decisions made in a high school basketball. Like, you know, it's not. I'm not ripping on football, but you know, football has 30 seconds between plays, and they have a play, and then there's, you know, decisions made on each of those plays, but there's a lot of space between them. So yeah, it's just different.
Which I think is our key as coaches, to not have the kids thinking when they play and just reacting and creating habits. And that's what makes the best teams.
It does. Yeah. All right. Until next week, Coach.
All right. See you, Coach.
Thanks for watching, Coach. Make sure you go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. Make sure you subscribe so you get notified every time we come back on. But you will not be disappointed with teachhoops.com. 14-day free trial. Let's go check it out. Have a great day.